John, it's
That's
wonderful to
right.
meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Likewise, Joe. Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, sir. So let's begin our journey before we get into your good work by asking you this. 6 years ago, this pandemic changed so much about our lives. How did you get
hmm
through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things living and working today?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. It did impact my life, I guess, negatively and positively in some sense. I was always, been for the last, since 2010, I've been a mortgage software developer working from home. So the aspect of having to work at home wasn't a really big difference for me. I'd already worked from home anyway. It was exciting that at that particular time, with being quarantined and all of that stuff, I decided to actually start writing books. So that was, I kind of parlayed and made the best use of time. And since then, I wrote 10 books, became an international best-selling author all around mind mapping. So I kind of made the best use of that time. And yeah, it was good. But at the same time, it kind of put a final straw in a relationship I was trying to reconcile with my ex-wife, and the pandemic, I think, would kind of ended ended that. So it's kind of bittersweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I parlayed it, like I said, with writing books, and it basically began this new chapter of my life as an author, speaker, and what I call a Mappineering mentor.
So let's get into the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in
hmm
front of a bunch of 12 or 13-year-olds at career day. You're in a school, and the kid in the back of the room wants to know what you do for a living. How do
hmm
you synthesize all of that and make it make sense to them?
What I would say to a 12 or 13-year old, what I do and what I love doing is helping people organize their thinking by visually being able to take whatever they're thinking about and put it in a map form. So instead of them trying to look at or think about things with it swirling in their mind, I really help people get it out of their mind so they can actually see it better and gain better understanding of whatever it is they're trying to decide, a problem they're trying to fix, a trip they're trying to go on, whatever they're trying to do with their life. It's very hard to do that when it's information just in your mind. It's much easier to understand what's going on and what's in front of you if you're able to take it out and actually put it on a piece of paper. And
Yeah.
that's what I specialize in.
So when you were that age, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream job?
My dream job then was to play college football.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did we get here? You talked about software. Talk to
hmm
me, take me back to your beginnings. Where were you born and raised? What were the seeds that were planted that has been harvested into you finding your place today?
Well, great question. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, a specific city called Pacoima, California, which is north of downtown Los Angeles, about 20 minutes, 20 miles north of Los Angeles. And it was a football haven. I mean, we have Heisman Trophy Award winners out of our city. I mean, that's all we played in the streets back then. This was before PlayStation, before cable, before all of that stuff. So football became a love and a passion for me at a very early age. And again, like I said, my dream was to play college football. And luckily, I was blessed with a scholarship to go to Washington State University to live out that dream. Then from there, I played 5 years of professional football in the NFL and the Canadian Football League, and got two screws put in my right knee. Well, this that first happened in college, but before I just to backtrack real fast, before I played any professional football, I got my California real estate license. I knew I wanted to get into real estate, so my last 2 years in NFL in 92, 93, when I played with the LA Raiders at the time, I actually had listings on the market while I was still playing football there. So I kind of had an ideal of what I was going to do post football. So once I dinged my knee again up in Canada, and when I played in Canada for a couple of years, the doctor said I could have went back and played, but if I took another shot in it or tweaked it again, I probably have to walk with a cane the rest of my life. So I took that as a hint and a half to just move on, and that began my real estate mortgage career. Then from 95 all the way up until the mortgage meltdown in 2007, I built a pretty robust mortgage career from 2003 to the mortgage meltdown of 2007, 2008. I actually owned and operated one of the largest privately owned mortgage brokerages in all of Southern California. But then when the mortgage meltdown burnt everything and took everything away, which was the rock bottom of my life, it really took me from this millionaire like lifestyle, which I made more money in business than I ever did playing professional football. But it really just, I mean, I was homeless. I lost a house, career, family, everything, forced to move back to my mother's house. And that's when I got introduced to mind maps in 2009. And mind map gave me such a clarity about who I am and what I wanted to do with my life, now having to start from ground zero,
Yeah.
you know, that it enabled me to rebuild myself and become one of the country's top mortgage software developers since 2010.
Wow.
And yeah, so I've been busy.
Yeah, you have. I remember when Marcus Allen, I believe it was when Montana and Allen came to Kansas City, and
Hmm.
Marcus opened up some car dealerships. And you
Yeah.
always kind of see this in the athlete realm. There's these side businesses. Was that something that came from your family, or was that kind of a playbook for athletes that was like, get ready because you're going to have a shelf life?
Well, no, I think it just came specifically from my family. My dad was a big real estate guy when I was a kid, so I used to go on these listing appointments when I was young and be that little kid bored in a corner while my dad's going over his presentation that I heard 1,000 times. So I kind of fell in love with real estate and I kind of knew it. But to answer your question, most athletes they don't really think of a plan B, and they're kind of blindsided when the reality hits them that the game is gone. But luckily, I kind of knew and was kind of, I knew that this wasn't going to last forever. So by the grace of God, is all I can say is that I already had a plan B, if you will, and was already kind of making my way in that direction while I was still playing. And plus, the truth be told, Joe, again, like I said, my dream was to play college football, not the pros.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about the pros. I think, you know what it was? My dad took me to, I think it was like a Los Angeles Rams Cleveland Brown game in Anaheim when I was a little boy, and it was hot, it was boring, it was a low scoring, just a dud of a game. But then, like 2 weeks later, he took me to a UCLA USC game, and it was just rowdy and loud and ruckus and crazy. And I was like, "That's where I want to play. Forget all of that
Yeah.
boring professional stuff."
Yeah.
So yeah, so when I got to the pros, it was more like just, all right, I'm here. Let me just make the most of it. But it wasn't like my dream to play
Yeah.
pro. It was college was my thing.
So, look, who's been that inspirational force in your life to allow you to kind of navigate between the highs and lows that you've experienced and to find your place in helping people with their mindset and their mapping? Who has been that for you?
Man, I've been blessed to have several people. My dad was kind of in and out because him and my mom separated when I was young, so I didn't see him much. But when I did see him, it was kind of positive interaction where he would provide as much leadership as he could in the little times I did see him. But for the most part, it was my biggest mentor was a gentleman by the name of Paul Wiley. He owned Metro Cities Mortgage throughout the 90s and before the meltdown. His company was actually the largest privately owned bank in the entire country at the time. And this man and I just kind of just forged a bond. And to this day, we talk all the time. And he's just a person that I know that will tell me what I need to hear, not necessarily what I want to hear. He believes in me, he pushes me, he promotes me. I mean, he just always in my corner. Then I have a Joe Stump. I have, it's another guy and Dr. Ron Holman, who's like been my spiritual leader. So I've had like three solid, very successful men that to this day I can lean on when I need to, and hey, I'm at a crossroads or, I feel challenged, give me some insight. And I trust their judgment. They have not steered me wrong. In these 20, 30 years I've been engaging with them for sure.
So the mind mapping idea makes total sense to me. I think sometimes we need to visualize things. I've always joked around about when you go to a family gathering that you're not aware of, you almost need an organizational chart. Who's
Yeah.
who? How does everybody flow into this so you have better conversations and you understand? It almost feels like what you're proposing is this level of taking everything that swirls in our brains and just getting it
Mhm.
there and saying, who am I? Where do I want to
Yep.
go? What do I want to
Yep.
do?
Yep. It's transformative. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't be more clear with that. To most people that are overloaded, overwhelmed, dealing with mental health challenges, or just really stressed out and pressured, a lot of it is just because they don't have clarity in their thinking. They don't have clarity in their decisions before them. They don't have clarity in the problems they're facing. And I've yet to find a better tool to help people sort that out, than a mind map. Let's get that out of here, get it there. So now you get perspective. Now you can see what's going on from all different angles. And always, Joe, yes, always that I work with my clients and my students and things of that nature, that the answers and the next best step just poof, just appear. It's like I know what to do now just because they got clarity. Just because they know where it is. And I liken it to when somebody's driving and you generally know where you want to go, but you don't have a map. So you're making rights and lefts, and it's all this pressure and stress because you're trying to get to where you're trying to go, but you don't know where you're at, and you don't know where truly the destination is. So there's this angst, there's this tense, there's this overload, overwhelm feeling. But once you actually pull out the GPS and type in where it is, and it tells you where to go and all of this stuff, all of a sudden your energy just, okay,
Yeah.
I know where I'm at, and I know I just got to go two lights, make a right, two lefts, make a left, so clear. And that's what a mind map enables people to do, regardless of whatever it is they're thinking about. Starting a business, leaving a marriage. Now they're resetting themselves because someone had passed on, or they retired, or they're empty nesters now. Anytime when something in life changes, people need to kind of reset themselves on who they are now that their role may have shifted. And a mind map and the processes and systems that I built around it really helps people really just, I got it. I
Yeah.
got it. I know what I need to do.
So how did this epiphany happen? Has this been something you've been thinking about for a while, or did it just come out of a dream? How did this come to fruition?
No, I actually did a TEDx talk on this a couple years ago, but just a short overview of it. Back when I was homeless, after the mortgage meltdown, went to my mom's house, went there with just three things. I went with my mountain bike, a duffel bag full of gym clothes, and what I literally call this big ass box, because it was a huge box full of motivational tapes, DVDs, CDs, things of that nature that I collected over the years. I knew going back to my mom's, I had to go back into that box to reset myself. So as I started going back through that box, there was this book in there called the Mind Map book by Tony Buzan. I don't remember ever buying it. Somebody must have given it to me, but for whatever reason, it resonated with me at this particular time. So I read it and came up with the idea of, I'm a mind map all of the contents of this box. Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends, Influence People, Unlimited Power, Power of Now. I mean, all of the biggest self-help books you could think of. I spent 3 months literally mind mapping all of these books, which was transformative because it gave me much more clarity and depth to what they were communicating. Then I started connecting everything that they all were basically saying. And what I came away with essentially, Joe, is that all of them, every book that I read, and there was about 40 or 50 of them in there, they were all basically in their own way telling us that the purpose of life is just simply to love it. That is the purpose. It's not no big crazy thing. You got to love every second of life. They all had their own strategies, philosophies, mindset systems on how to do it. But that's the ultimate goal. And Mind Map helped me get clear on that. Then from there, I took the other thing that I learned from that is that in order to truly love your life, You got to get clear on who you are and who you intend to be in this life. You can't be ambiguous about who you are, what you stand for, what your purpose is. You got to consciously decide, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is who I need to be to get what I want to do and have in my life, kind of deal. So that began what I now call my I am mind map, where I spent another 3 months of just really clarifying who I am. Who am I? What's most important to me now that I don't have Jack anymore?
Yeah.
Who am I now? What do I want with my life? And after spending 3 months of doing that, it changed my whole perspective. It changed my whole energy. That it took me, I moved into my mom's house. I went the first 3 months mind mapping that book. The next 3 months developing my I am mind map. And a month later, I landed a 6-figure job as a mortgage software developer.
Wow.
And I know that how it happened so fast for me was just the clarity that I had, that mind map gave me, that mind mapping gave me. I knew what I wanted. I knew the life I wanted to live. So I started vibrating in that energy, if you will, and just attracted this job that just transformed my life quickly from home rags to riches, super fast.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to, I share with people, like I said in the TEDx talk, and why I try to really help people who are in those valleys, if you will, of their life. They're being challenged. Hey, let's just get clear, not on your circumstances. Let's get clear on who it is you want to be. What do you want to become? Let's map that out. And once we get clear on that, now you have a beautiful tool that not only you can look at and reference, but now you can also do the most powerful piece of it all. Now start to imagine yourself actually successfully experiencing that every day. That is the big secret. You know what I mean? Once you get clear on what you want to be, do, and have with your life, and you can now see it in a mind map. Now when you're in your meditation, visualization, imagination practice, it's easier to see the map.
Yeah.
I can see the components of the map now because it's a visual tool. So now when I'm seeing this visual tool, now I'm able to relate to it, connect to it, imagine it, experience it, and start to attract it into my life a lot faster is what I now teach a lot of athletes,
Yeah.
you know.
And a lot of that is manifest destiny. Once you put it out there, you're just telling the universe you want it.
Yeah, yeah. But the secret with that, though, that a lot of people I think miss is that they try to manifest destiny without true clarity.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? And that's where the mind map comes in. It really gets you clear on not just what you want, but specifically the energy that you will feel once you have it. So when you're in your imagination, thinking about what you want, you're actually feeling it, what's it's going to be like
Yeah.
when you actually have it, which I think is the secret to manifestation that a lot of people miss.
Absolutely. So what is the energy for you every day when that alarm clock goes off to help change lives, to take care of your soul, maintain who you are? What is that for you every day?
Oh man, it's amazing, and I try to express this, and that's a great question, Joe, because it's when you get or when you go through the process of self enlightenment or self actualization or self discovery by way of the I am mind map that I walk people through on how to build for themselves, it's almost like it's like this divine, godly like connection that you have, right? So I got clear on what I want. I'm imagining it, and it's almost like you feel like God is blessing it, where God is like approved, like, yeah, this is your divine mission in your life. This is what you're supposed to do with your life. I stamp approved of your vision, of what you're trying to do with your life. And when you get that connection and feel like God is has approved your vision, your dream, your desire, your goal, whatever that may be, getting out of bed, it's almost like, you bounce out of bed, you bounce out of bed like, all right, God, let's move forward today. Let's move forward today. I know you're going to bring some opportunity or some possibility for me to get in conversation to express myself with this mission that you blessed me with. So yeah, I'm just gonna make sure that I'm ready. I'm looking forward to it, and just so happens I'm with Joe now. I didn't even look at my calendar this week because I've been busy on this other project, but I saw you pop up and I'm like, here it is again. I get a chance to, talk about my divine mission. And, I get up at 4:30 every morning. Right when I get up in the morning, I use the restroom. I come right back and I listen to a visual guided imagination experience of me going over my I am mind map. I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm successful, I'm happy. And I break each one of those key anchors down to what they actually mean to me and how it feels to actually have excellent health, extraordinary wealth, enormous success, and extreme happiness. What does that feel like, and what am I doing to have those emotions? So I'm visualizing that before 6 a.m. pretty much every Monday through Friday, without fail, and that just, yeah, by the time I come downstairs here to my office, yeah, I'm on fire,
There you go. I love it.
yeah.
So you've been on a wild ride in your life, and I'm curious if you had a dream tonight, ran into that 18-year-old version of you ready to play college football, and you had a
Hmm.
big picture book and you showed what your life has turned to be,
Hmm.
everything that you've evolved to. Would that young version of you believe that your life has turned out this way?
I believe so. Because that young me was always a big dreamer,
Yeah.
that young me was always this big outside of the box kind of guy. This young me that young me was always this guy that knew something amazing was going to happen inside of my life. I didn't. Football was one thing, but I knew up and to that point that I was different from most of my friends in that I knew that I was gonna be do and have things on a bigger scale. You know what I mean? I knew I wasn't gonna stay in the hood, if you will. I knew I wasn't gonna just be stuck in LA, or I knew I wasn't going to be a 9 to 5 kind of guy, where I was just, I worked for 40 years, 401k kind of dude. I knew that wasn't me, you know what I mean? For sure. So with that understanding, I knew something cool and extraordinary is going to happen with my life. So I think, that young me looking at all that I've been able to do with my life would be like, yeah, I can see that shit
Yeah.
happening.
I dig it. So, if everything that you've done evolved to and become, what are you the proudest of?
Outside of being a dad, outside of being a dad, I'm a girl dad. Um, Outside of being a dad, I really believe this Mappineering.
Yeah.
This mind mapping, Mappineering thing is it's really something. The real estate thing was cool. It felt like I was really making a difference in lives, helping people with home ownership and dealing with their refinances and all the things of that nature. But this right here is allowing me to really impact people in a core level.
Yeah.
You know, not with a tangible object. This is like, let's get to the root of who you are, and that was been transformative to me. And I've had some very powerful emotional experiences that, just helping people get clear on certain things, that's been really heartwarming. Kids thinking about suicide that I went through mind mapping and helped them reset themselves. Helping kids that were okay athletes, get D1 scholarships, and things of that nature. Those kind of things that like, wow, that's the juice right there. Is to get that. That get a parent calling me like, wow, man, you changed my kid's life. That yeah, you
That's
can't
it.
buy that. Yeah, you can't buy that.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, John, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you in varying capacities, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am someone who's been blessed with an opportunity to love my life by helping others love their lives. I really believe that.
I love it.
That's it.
That's it. That is it. So if
That's it.
anyone's That's it, man. So if anybody is interested in the next step, they want to reach out, they want to get involved with mind mapping, they want to change their lives, where do they go?
JohnDiggs.com. I have a very awesome, very simple, it's called an I am assessment, where it's just like 12 questions to really kind of help people get clear on who they are, where they may be clear in some areas of their lives and may not be so clear in some other areas. JohnDiggs.com. I'm on every social media platform: TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Just go John Diggs. People know me more as the Mappineering mentor. So if you see that, that's me. And people can always email me directly at john@johndiggs.com with any questions. Again, this is a passion mission for me. It's not a money thing. This is something that, my higher calling. So anybody has any interest in knowing or learning more about mind maps and how you can apply it in your life to help you love and live your best life, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to help you.
I love it. I'll put all these links in the show notes. What a wonderful story. John, thank you, sir. Thank you for taking a
Thank
minute
you
out.
for having me, Joe.
Best of luck. I appreciate it.